today is another day, and it's about what you see right here in front of you. And it is a Dodge 1933 5-window coupe, straight out of Texas. And this particular client is going to allow pretty much a pretty good oversized overhauling done to this. I'm going to walk around and point out some of the things instead of taking the camera with me and going around. I want to make sure that my microphone stays in check, you know, with the green light solid staying on and making sure my camera actually stays on. So what we got here, like I said, is straight out of Texas. It is a 1933. It is 99% all steel body. This piece here is actually fiberglass, along with the fenders, the running boards, and also this whole rear section back here, except for this is metal. The interior is done, but I will have to take a good majority of it out in order to work on the doors. And we are going to do a color change. We're going to keep the base yellow. The client likes this color, which is fine. It's actually based on the time and the era of when these cars were, you know, being done. It was done in yellow, but we're going to add a gold pearl on top of the yellow. Obviously not this one. We're going with a whole fresh new paint job. We're going to be eliminating the flames altogether. I got doors to make adjustments on. I got poppers to fix, and that's for the doors so they open up. Got to get them to not only close better, stay latched better. Alignments, body lines. Definitely the hood has a big concern. I'm going to see if I can actually move the front grille housing forward, even if it's just a ½ an inch. It would definitely help on certain areas of this hood with the sheet metal. And we're going to be pulling the engine and transmission out. It's got to get freshened up, and at the end I will be painting that as well, and that will be a gloss black, along with just the grille being gloss black. The frame is painted. It's yellow. The underneath is also been painted, and I will be doing the same thing to that, and pretty much enhancing a lot of this car, just making sure it's as straight as I can get it, as clean as I can get it. There are some concerns in areas other than what I just pointed out that have to be addressed. Actually, there's a decent sized list of things that have to be done. And I know one thing for sure, because I did drive the car, the headlights need to be adjusted. Yeah, they're a little out of whack. One shoots to the ground and the other one's kind of straight out. And Puss in Boots actually agrees, and here she is. She's walking by with her tail up, and she's checking out the ride, and she agrees. She feels as though all that stuff needs to be done as well. See, she's checking it out. She's snooping. That's what she does best. She likes to check everything out. See, she's giving it her overall sniff and checking and looking, but that's okay. I'm going to have to put her little furry paws to work, and her tail, put some scotch tape on there with some sandpaper, and get her to work. So, nevertheless, I think actually it's a real sweet ride, and I'm going to make it even sweeter. And the one thing I want to point out, that these two cars look awesome together. Yeah, I think American Graffiti, it was a 55 Chevy. I don't know the year of the coupe, but it was a yellow one. I don't even know the model, whether it was, could have been a Chevy. Who knows? I'm not really sure. And if anybody wants to comment on what kind of coupe that was, the yellow one that was in that movie next to the 55 Chevy, be my guest, and I'll get a checking it out, and then I'll have a little education there on the car, of what year and model it is or was. I'm sure the car still exists. So I'm just starting the video. I'm going to go around, start doing some sheet metal work, fixing things the way they need to be, and see if I can make any adjustments before I start taking the car apart. It's important all that gets done before I start taking it apart, so that after it's painted and I put it back together, it goes back together correct. So until the next shot, stand by. I can't wait to get started. Alright, it's the next day, and yesterday, a few hours later, I put a few hours into a few things. One was trying to line up the hood with the front grille, and after taking measurements, I realized that the nose, the grille part, wasn't square to the front part of the cabin. So I'm going to put you on the stand here and kind of take you through some of the stuff. With trying to align this hood up and give me some decent body lines and fighting with the nose, it was off from the firewall to the front grille housing. It was 7/8 of an inch different between one side and another. And then the other thing was the center of the grille support was out, I think, a ½ inch from center. So for temporarily, until I get deeper into it, I actually used a ratchet strap to hook that side and pull it over. And then, as you can see, a block of wood to keep it out, and desperately trying to get this hood with some sort of decency that would help create a better flow and body lines. And the center of where the two parts of the hood come together to line up with the center of this. This piece here is fiberglass, so this part is not original. And that would explain the the weirdness right here. This, however, is all metal. Now, I don't know if it's the original or if it's an aftermarket. This car, I don't know how many decades ago it was done. Could be 3-4 decades ago when the car was done. And as I went further into it, I took a break from trying to arrange this top to be the way it is, because the other thing that I noticed, and then I'm going to bring you over to this part, is that this bend right here, I don't know what type of metal this is made out of. I really don't. But I couldn't get this to want to flex out to help match the curvature over here, because it wants to be sucked in. So, which would create a lot of wear and tear, scratches on it. So, as I tried to keep it out, it wouldn't work. So, I came up with an idea. Underneath the inside of this hood has hinge points, say, and it's missing the side panels. The client couldn't get them from the person that it was purchased from, which this vehicle, like I mentioned, is out of Texas. So I'm using a part of that hinge part that's under the inside of this hood as a locking and guidance to this hood mechanism. And I had these pieces already made, which I'm going to custom make them better. But it works out nice how I already have it fitted, is to where I can integrate this piece into the metal, and this is metal, so that when this hood comes down, after having it pinned in place, because we want to keep it that way. We want to be able to lock this part in so that if the client wants to flip the top over on half of it, it won't want to slide off like it does now. And then when you take it back, you have to be careful and put it in place, and that will keep the flow of the body line going. And at the same time, there's really no cushion to where this thing's sitting on here. So I will get, which is similar to what I have, but it's going to have to be thicker, this type of weather stripping. It is rubber. It's made by 3M, where it sticks to one side. So either I'll most likely stick it to the other under part of this hood on this end, as well as the nose end. But like I said, it has to be a little thicker. This is really only maybe, I don't even think it makes a quarter of an inch. And once it's squeezed, it's even less. So it's like 3/16. It probably needs to be 5/16 thick with a little backbone to it. We'll say that. And that's what I'll place here after it's all painted and done. And then taking a break from that, I needed to see if I can make the body lines better on the doors, which they're not bad. They're not like they're horrible or anything. But at the same time, they could be better. So I did that, and more of it will be done here in the front. There is a pretty good sized gap right here around this corner, and as long as this is metal, which I'm sure it is, on the A-pillar, I'll weld up beads along that because there's a pretty sized gap, and that gap is 5/16 right through around the corner. So I'll definitely fill that in so it follows better and maintain the same thing. And then over here I had to open this up some more, and it stayed pretty consistent all the way through. And then the other thing is the panel going across. I should move this over even more so you can see what I'm talking about. And back here where the hinges mount, it's flat, it's nice, it's even, all the way down, all the way through. And then the rocker, it's really nice and even right into the quarter until you get halfway to the door going forward of the car. And as you can see, the doors are suicide doors. As it goes forward, it separates from the A-pillar. It goes far away, and pretty much halfway from the top of the door down, you can see the door coming away from the A-pillar again. So as I measure this, it's got a real serious gap. I think the space is a full 5/16 gap down here at this bottom corner, and the client wants it to be flush. You know, she believes that, adjust the door. Well, you really can't adjust the door. I actually thought maybe I could, but in my examination, there's no room for it. There's no room for this bottom of this door to go in. And if I did take it in and that door went in, well, then I'd have a step in on the door from the quarter. And normally you work from, in this case, just like with that one, I worked from the quarter forward along with the front fender. Well, this doesn't have a front fender. We'll say that the A-pillar is the front fender. So if I was to take that in, I would have a problem here. And to take it in, to go in 5/16 of an inch, that'd be crazy. So the other door is the same way. So then the rocker, too, also goes in, and it's all incorporated into one. So I also, in further investigation, I took off the bottom trim that they had here that didn't even quite cover the rug. The rug needed to be left longer, but I'll try to fix that. But I'm going to show you a piece. This material right here, and it's hard to tell, but if you look down it, it's got a bend, and the bend is in the middle, and it's actually created a warp, a lump, and that tells me they forced it to bend in that direction, to fold in. And that's not clean. That doesn't look very nice. It's not horrible, but it needs to be straightened back out so that lump is not there. So in further investigation, I feel as though in order for me to properly, and I think, could be wrong, to fix this, I would have to cut into, say, just on the opposite side or a part of the floor into the rocker. I'd have to say at least halfway back, maybe a little bit further, and go forward in, and which isn't that far, and cut into that. And also, by cutting into that, I would have to cut where I see stress cracks. I'm going to point to it with this piece right here. There are stress cracks right up in here to where the part of the mounting of the body to the frame, there's a bolt there, I took that out. There's a stress crack that goes up about 4 inches and another one up towards the top. So I think if I get to pull that out and make it flow correctly so that the door looks right, fits right, feels right, that would be one option. Or, depending, I could split the top of the rocker right down the middle, come up the A-pillar because the latch is way up here. And once I split that down that way, and the same thing maybe over here where the stresses are in front of this reinforcement bracket, and take, because there's also a stress crack on the bottom down there. That's about 1.5 inches. It looks like it actually separated. But that being said, either way, whatever it takes to relieve the pressure of the front of the firewall, A-pillar, whatever, being squeezed in, let it pop out and relax and let it follow the contour that it needs to follow when it comes to this door, because there's really nothing I could do about the door to alter that unless I take this and I split the door down the middle and I go this direction and to try to follow that. But I really think that the problem is in the rocker area to the A-pillar. That's what I believe, because if I make this door flex in that way, the door itself, well then the sheet metal on the door itself will create a buckle. It'll flex, and it might even tin can, and I don't want that to happen. So in the full study of this debacle, I'm going to attack this the best way possible, and I also noticed that the paint is separating here on the flame area. But that's no big deal, because all this is going to be cleaned up anyway, repainted, what have you. And I got new body mounts ordered. I don't believe the body mounts, once I put them in, which they should be in now, will affect this cabin like it would the 57 Chevy two-door hardtop. That's different. There's a lot of ability to make things flex and move, so when you're restoring a car like that, when you're doing the metal work, it should be sitting on new body mounts, on the frame, bolted into place, and tweak things as you go along, because that car, you can make adjustments on the doors just by tightening or loosening the body mounts on that car. So, but in this one, it's a little different, a lot different. So that's going to be my area approach. I already started removing parts of the interior, the trim around the door, which I'm looking at that metal going, boy, that's horrible. But I'm not messing with any of this. I don't know why it's like that. I don't want to spend the time on that and waste the client's money on that. So that's it. I'm going to take the seat out, take the door panels off, because I got to fix the poppers anyway. They're not working, so the door panel has to come off. And once the seat is out, I'll take the rug out. The dash is going to stay there. I think the steering column is going to have to come out because of the firewall area and the steering. And this way I can do a nice job when it comes to finishing it, and the post of the steering column isn't in my way. I don't want to get too far into taking too much apart, but I know that the headliner is going to have to come down, because on the right side of this top, and even over in here, actually right and left side, you can see there's a crack in the paint coming from the inside where they have this trim mounted down. So I'd have to get this up so that I could fix it, make it nice. And the only way that's going to happen is if I drop the headliner. And I did mention that to the client, that the headliner will have to come down, in which at that point, I'm going to, do my best not have to get so far into this project if it don't need be. But whatever has to come out will come out, and whatever stays in there will be thoroughly covered to keep it free of any overspray or debris or whatever. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, seeing this, actually, you look at it like maybe like that, you can see the bend in it, and for this metal, that's not natural. And I think this is aluminum anyway. So if I square that up, then I can square this up, which won't be so bad. And when I place it back in there, there'll be no deflection like that, a lump. And there is one on the other side. Get back into removing this stuff, but I figured I would show this in the video so that when I post this on Sunday, because I have a different video that's being posted tomorrow, and that has to do with that Ford truck, but nevertheless, I'm going to further investigate this whole thing and go from there and see what I got going on. So until then, stand by. Okay, I'm back, and as you can see, I'm almost flush. I really can't bring it out much more with the metal, but with a little bit of spray, filler, and try to take this. It seems like there's like a bow right here. Maybe if I can flatten that out, that would smoothen that right up. But I'll show you just how far I had to bring that out. Yeah, check that out. That's at least 3/8 of an inch right there, that gap. Yep, and it does taper and gets down thinner. And the rocker does come out and meet the bottom of the door pretty nice. I put those pieces in there to hold its position, and now I'll fill in the rest of it and go up this way and fill this in. I even have a small piece in there to keep that gap open. Yeah, but it's turning out the way I needed to. I didn't have to cut into the firewall. This had enough flex in it to bring me out, and along with the rocker, there was enough flex to bring it out to basically square it up. As you can see, the interior is out, the seat, the rug, part of the door stuff is off, and when I start getting into the bodywork, the door panels will be coming off. So, never the who, we're moving right along. I'm going to fill that in with at least 16 gauge. I believe that's what that is. 16 gauge is pretty thick, pretty strong. So that's going to be next. And this other smaller line that's opened up, I'll just be welding that in. That'll be a nice solid weld to about this hole right here. And then start putting some metal in there and expand it out. I tell you, it's a lot of work, a lot of time, but at the end, it'll be nice and smooth. And I did basically also bang into this going in that way so that I can open up the gap at the bottom of the swoop, because it was actually going to be hitting it. So by pushing the metal back, that worked too. And I might have to do through here with more of a flat stock like this. So it'll do nice all through there. And this spot here where there was, I don't know, this item was in there. This was in there holding some, this stuff here is just, it's rotted or it's starting to disintegrate. It was here and, it was painted over. I will be putting, like I said, a rubber here on this too, a weather sealant, most likely on the door side of it, so that it'll seal nice, because there's none on the door frames, either one. I will be putting the stuff that I actually showed earlier, the thinner stuff, not the thicker stuff that I need for the hood. But I'm going to get back to doing my thing, and I'll chime in as soon as all that is all filled in nice, cleaned up, and show you what's going on. Stand by. Alright, I'm back, and as you can see, the metal work is done on this door. All the spaces that I cut out is now filled back in with metal and welding all the way up and around, and my gaps are pretty decent. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, clients not looking, to basically take a micrometer through here and measure everything out. We just need everything to plane out and have nice lines, and that's what I'm creating. I don't want to spend 20 hours on one door jamb. It doesn't make any sense. So tomorrow it's going to be a matter of sanding all this down, flattening it out more, to find out how much material is on the door, and then blend everything in, fill that back in, and just basically finish it off really nice. So that's the plan for that tomorrow. Also, I'm going to be pulling the engine and transmission out tomorrow, but I think the first thing I'm going to be doing is trying to figure out exactly what's going to work the best for this hood besides this. This is definitely a given. I'm going to be cutting this across and make it work. You know, just take pieces, fit it in there, weld it to it, or bolt it, make it look finished or something, but I'm going to make it nice. That's the plan. Because that hood needs to line up and be out, even, not sucked in. So that's the plan. So until then, hang tight. Okay, I'm back. It's the next day, and today is about removing the engine and transmission out of this. Obviously the radiator. And then I will be setting part of this back together so that I can finish fabricating the section I need for the hood to work properly. I went over some details with the owner today, actually this morning. That's why I'm getting a little bit later start on actual any physical work. But as I'm going through, right now the collectors are disconnected, the antifreeze is being drained, so whatever else ends up being in the way, it's going to come out of the way. And maybe I'll film jacking this thing up and taking it out and placing it in the back of the truck. But nevertheless, I want to get started on it deeper to get it done so I can move on and get this part of the project out of the way. So stand by. I'm back. Front radiator is out along with the pretty much the support. I'd have to say 90% of it has been disconnected and it's almost ready to come out. We're going to take it out with the transmission attached to make it easier. So when that happens, I'll give a shout out to you and show you. So stand by. Okay, you can see the engine hoist hooked up. It's ready to come out. Yeah, looking forward to getting that out. There isn't a lot of room, but I believe there is enough to slide this thing forward enough, start tilting it, and bring it up out so we don't have to disconnect the engine from the transmission. So that's the plan, and once it's out in the back of the truck, that truck, I'll be back. Well, there's the cat in charge, Miss Puss in Boots. She's here for the last part of this particular clip on this beautiful 1933 coupe. She wants me to pet her again. She just ate for the second time this morning. That's okay. She can eat as many times as she wants. She gave the inspection on the car. She gives the details up. But anyhow, back to this baby. And as now you can see, she's underneath the car giving it an inspection, probably looking at the drive shaft that's underneath there. And you got a clear shot of no engine. That's right, no engine, no transmission. and I delivered it yesterday once we had it out with this, and it went to another shop that the client who owns the car requested that I work with her, and I'm more than happy to. So she'll be rebuilding or freshening up. I don't know how far it'll be taken, but definitely freshening it up, checking things out with that and the transmission, and she'll be doing her thing there to that engine, and actually she helped me take it out, which made this transaction go much quicker, smoother than me doing it by myself. So I put the grill back on because it needed to be so that I could finish zeroing in on the hood. We ordered some parts that belong on here that weren't here. There's like a holder for the hood in the center that goes here, and then one up there. So once I receive them, I'm going to be able to finish that part up and make sure she's nice and get some other parts to make it work well so that the client is happy. So in the meantime, that's going to end this video on this segment for this 1933 Dodge 5-window coupe. Yep, I do appreciate people watching. It is Friday, so for this week, today will be the last day that I work on this car until Monday. I did post this morning the Ford 150 with the water pump. Was a day behind on that one. It was a pretty busy day. Started early, finished late, which was fine. So I didn't have a chance to actually post a video, but I did this morning. So if anybody's looking to repair a water pump on a Ford truck for a 5-liter engine, check it out. Maybe it'll help. You know, if you've never done one before and you want to save yourself some money, that's the way to do it. And that's just it. So I do appreciate people watching. If you would like, make a comment, subscribe. You know, the whole YouTube thing I'm sure you hear everybody talk about. And that'd be awesome. But until then, you know, try to get something done like I'm doing. Thanks for watching.